So one of the things the moms touched on just a little bit in the last one of their chats was basically about the talk. You know, there's a lot of a conversation about how in the Black community we have to give our kids the talk about race relations, and about how unfortunately that trumps the sex talk. So have you guys talked to your kids yet?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Jabari knows what's going on. Like, he asks questions daily. I don't really hide anything from him. Julia still doesn't really understand it. But even though I try to teach them not to identify a person like solely off of their race, to also be aware of the things that are going on and how to stay safe the best way we can. And I think, just being open and honest with them and not keeping them in the dark helps a whole lot.
How old is Jabari again?
He'll be 13 this year. Right. And it's like that's that age where, I mean, it's so much going on with them. So just having to pause everything else that's going on with puberty and everything else and like, okay, by the way, we need to have this talk. And I know right now he's probably sick of me because I done had plenty of talks with him in the last few months, you know.
But I think he's also at that age now where he can turn on the TV. He can understand when he sees those pictures of those people who are no longer with us, why those conversations are necessary. And I think that's something that we were kind of missing when we were growing up. That we didn't have the mass spreading out of those pictures, of those IDs, of those stories that were happening all across the country. They were happening, but we weren't faced with them. And I think that's a real sobering reminder of what's there. Can I talk about that kid?
Yeah, I have a 10-year-old nephew that I was helping with schoolwork. And you know, he looks just like me. Dasia's seen him, so that's he looks just like me, but he asked me about George, and the question that he asked me was, so when I drive or when I leave the house, could this happen to me?
Yeah.
And I had to be real with him and be like, you know, yes. So when you're driving, if you ever get stopped and go through the whole formalities of things that I do as a grown Black man, when I get pulled over, you know, making sure I have tinted windows on my car. So I look to see what side they're coming on, and I let down the rear passenger side and the driver's side. Like, I do that because I don't want any issues.
Yeah.
Because I've even had people, and my tint is not that dark. I don't have a legal tint. My tint is, you know, it's legal, but it just looks extra dark because I have a black car. But I don't want it to be an issue for a simple traffic violation that they may seem, you know, but to be something more, you know, to turn out to be something different. And I have to have that conversation with him. I have a 7-year-old. I'm soon to get married August 8th, so I have a 7-year-old that I'm about to that I talk with regularly. I haven't gone into depths with him. He knows what's going on, but I haven't gone into depths with him as to what it is. You know, he knows what happened with George. He saw the video. It's on TV. His grandfather looks at TV. Well, his father looks at TV. So, I just haven't had the full conversation with him. My nephew AJ, he knows. So I honestly don't even know how to approach it with the 7-year-old. Yeah. So you know, honestly, to be truthful, I really don't know how to approach it.
And approach,
because I don't want to give them too much, and they might not. I want to give them enough to where they can understand what's going on, but I don't want to overload them. And make them terrified.
And like what he was saying, as far as the approach goes with Jabari, being a single mom, trying to have this discussion with the son, I have to say I'm very grateful for the men that I am very close to, who gives me the advice, who tells me what exactly I need to say. And sometimes I have them talk to him because all he's doing is looking at mom. Mom is just being extra. Mom might just be nagging. Mom might just think that. I'm like, no, I need some men to actually come talk to my son and explain, like, listen, you might think that your mom might be just overbearing, but this is real life happening. And she's concerned. She's worried. Like, worried already, even though every day he might be with me. It's a true, legit concern. Like, you know, what's to come the next years of life. I want to see my son graduate. I want to see him drive. I want to see him get married, have kids, and just having a fear of someone taking that away from you, just because they have a certain level of authority, it's scary.
It really is.
It is very scary. How I brought the conversation up with my boys was, I asked them, when you're being pulled over, what is it that you should do? And he kind of look up. He was like, I don't know, Dad. What should I do? I said, just do like the man says, woman says, or whatever. Apply to their instructions. Do not talk back. Do not fuss back. Do not. Because my thing is, when I see the ones that they decide to show, it's always, what did I do? You can calmly ask, well, what did I do? Why am I being pulled over? Why are you arresting me? What's the issue? So he was like, but Dad, if I know I didn't do nothing, why wouldn't I be upset? I said, that's a good question. And I told him back in 2014, the same exact thing happened to me. I was 17 years old, and I had a thuggish look, braids, gold in my mouth, walking around, driving around in this little Pontiac with these rims on it. And my mom told me, boy, get them rims put on that car, you come straight home. But no, I'm 17. It's a Saturday, the sun's out. My car is clean, I just got these rims, I'm gonna ride around. I went to the neighborhood because my mom, she owned a daycare for 30 years. I said, well, I'm gonna act like I'm gonna be nice. I'm gonna go get her mail, like I'm portraying like I'm doing something for her. To my surprise, I did not know that there was an elderly woman that just got knocked in the head and robbed an hour before I got to that neighborhood. And the suspect was a light-skinned guy with braids and gold teeth. So I turns in the neighborhood, and in this neighborhood, it's an abandoned store, some apartments, and it's like a vacant field. So in that field sat an undercover cop and a uniformed police officer. So I'm riding, listening to my music, whatever, went by the house, checked the mail, came back out, and I have tinted windows too, and I never ride my windows down. But this particular day, I had them down because I wanted to be seen. So as I came out the driveway, came onto the curb, they looked at me, I looked at them, but I didn't do nothing wrong, so I continued driving. They both jumped in their cars and proceeded to follow me. By the time I could get to the stop sign, which was probably 20 yards ahead, I put my signal light on to turn right. As I was turning right, it was two more coming towards me and two more coming from the opposite direction. As I got on House Springs Road, everybody turned on their lights at the same time. Pulled me over right across the street, jumped out of all. It was six of them, two, and two behind me. Everybody jumped out their cars, guns pointed, hollering, get out the car, face on the ground. While they're doing that, three more showed up. So I could have got loud and boisterous. What did I do? I didn't do nothing wrong. But I was more scared of my mama finding out that I was someplace that I wasn't supposed to be versus going to jail. So I quickly complied. I'm coming from such and such address. I was getting my mail from my mom, yada yada. They were like, all right, get up, put your hands on the hood of my car, and we're going to search your car. So I'm like, all right, cool. So they're searching because I'm like, this gonna be on the news. My mama gonna find out. I'm sure it's dead. But I'd rather go to jail than go home right now. So while they were checking the car, it was this black guy. He walked up, and I don't have no idea where that guy came from, but he walked up with a suit on, with the badge on his belt, and he was like, "You're Sarah Sellers' son, right?" And I was like, yes, sir. Like, the lady who owned the daycare right down the street over there. I was like, yes, sir. So while he was asking me his questions, another cop came up, and then the lady that got hit in the head, they had her in the backseat of one of the cars, and she told them that it wasn't me. And they took the handcuffs off and said, all right, you're free to go. Have a nice day. Not, we apologize, not, we're sorry, but all right, you free to go. Have a nice day. So they looking at me like, Dad, that ain't really happened to you. And yeah, it did. It really happened. And if I would have let my ego and my attitude, because I knew that I didn't do anything wrong, get to me, yeah, maybe I could have been another victim. Maybe I could have been locked up. Who knows what could have happened. But I say that to say, if you're in a predicament like that, an attitude is the last thing you need to have. First of all, figure out what the problem is. At that time, you don't know what the outcome could be, because you get mad, you get upset. You could have a cop who done had a bad night with his wife. He just looking to take his anger out on anybody.
Mm-hmm.
So all cops, and my thing with them, all cops isn't bad. And my youngest son said that. He was like, all cops aren't bad. It's just, you have to know how to talk to people. And that's what I put in their head. You don't have to cuss and fuss to let yourself be known. It is easy to be quiet and seen than loud and heard. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
You let this situation die down, see what the problem is, see what the issue is, because the most important thing is coming home safely. All cops aren't bad. Diagnose the situation before you blow off, and when you are on the side of the road, that is not your courtroom. If you have to get locked up, get locked up. We'll deal with that later. You don't stress your point on side of the road, because that's never a good turnout.
I'm in full agreement with you. We have to learn to check ourselves, and we have to encourage our kids to do the same thing. But
Exactly.
I do think that there has to be responsibility on the system's part to be properly trained in the response and making sure the situation doesn't get escalated. Because especially, it's one thing with us, like in the beginning of the conversation, we talked about how we have a leg in a world where we didn't see this happen on a regular basis, where we didn't see a negative outcome all the time. But our kids now do see a negative outcome. They see death all the time.
Even with those who are compliant to what they're saying.
And so because of that, because they see death, soon as the officer rolls up, they instantly, they're charged. They panic because they don't know if they're going to be the next victim. They unfortunately, they may go into fight or flight mode. And so I do believe that, and I'm not saying that this doesn't happen, but I really push for officers to learn how to de-escalate the situation and make sure their response is pretty cool. Make sure that they're aware of the fact that they're dealing with people who are traumatized and living in fear, unfortunately.
Exactly.
Like they're afraid of police officers. With us, we saw police officers on PBS, on Mr. Rogers, I don't know. They were Carl Winslow. You know what I'm saying?
They were our friends.
Yeah, they were our friends.
We considered our safe haven.
They don't have Carl Winslow. So unfortunately, they may be panicked, and so that's all I'm saying.
And that's true.
And they're young.
I remember I was riding to Florence from Darlington on East McKeever on Tuesday or Wednesday night. And I passed the SUV. It was night. It was like 9 at night. Passed the SUV. And as soon as I passed them, like at the corner of my car, their blue lights came on. And my stomach dropped. Like, I knew I wasn't doing anything wrong because I wasn't speeding.
Right.
I knew I wasn't doing anything wrong. But at that moment, when I saw those blue lights, my stomach dropped. And on that strip of East McKeever, it's dark. And it's crazy that blue lights made my stomach drop, and then I'm looking at my surroundings like there's no light over here. Like I got to go with some light. Then when I had to look in the mirror again to see that the car, he was still going back the other way, and I was like, "You got that nervous?"
Just that immediate fear.
You know.
There are, I think the realization is that there's power in symbolism. There are some people who understand that, and there are some people who understand the power that a blue and red flashing light can have, similar to the same way that a white hood would instill fear years ago. Right? And I think some people are comfortable with that. Not everybody, but I feel that there's some people that are comfortable with that. And LJ, you almost brought me to tears, because I'd be lying if I said that I don't believe that, especially between you, myself, Tarris, and Ryan, that we don't all have stories like that.
True.
Right? And I think the thing, and I know Monet wanted to get a point, but I hijacked her because she left the camera for a minute.
Story like that too.
But the fact of the matter, I think for me, the fact of the matter comes back to the fact that there is the concept of freedom is not absolute. And there's a TED talk that a radio personality, Karen Hunter, I listen to a lot, had mentioned, where she did a TED talk on free-ish, right? And so there is this illusion, there is a reality that no, we are not slaves, we're not in a slave system anymore, we are free American citizens that happen to be terrorized in like this particular manner. But the fact is, if I can't walk how I want to walk, if I can't talk, if I can't wear what I want to wear, if I can't wear what I'm comfortable doing, if I can't simply have the freedom to make a mistake, or to even let my anger come over me for being unjustly stopped, that then gives your anger an opportunity to rise up and lead to violence. The fact that there's a fallacy of real true freedom is real. It's palpable. That at any particular point in time, if I say something incorrectly, if my attitude happens to catch me, and thank God my attitude hasn't caught me on a couple of examples, but if I respond to a question wrong, if I have the wrong emotional response, if I drive the wrong car, if my tint is too dark, if I drive at the wrong particular point in time of day, if I look the same way, if I happen to look like someone else, if I happen to drive down the wrong street with it, if any of these external factors happen that are outside of my control, that could literally mean life or death for me.
That's true.
Like, that's not real freedom. And that is not something that a lot of people in this country have to deal with. It's not. And that is a terrifying conversation to have with your children. To know you're free. Barack Obama was president, this and that and all these other things, but then
but here's the thing:
by police, you have to pretty much act like a slave.
Yeah.
But
yes, sir. No, sir.
Are instructing your every move. I am removing, I'm taking off my seatbelt. I am reaching for this, like Philandro Castile. He was instructing the officer of every move he made, and he still got shot.
Right.
He said, I do have, I have a gun, but I am reaching for my wallet, and that's it.
Right. But going to what David was saying, that, depending on your demeanor or your attitude or whatever, it honestly, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. There was a case where the officer thought that the man that he shot and killed looked like a scary dude. I think that was what he said, looked like a scary guy. Doesn't matter what you're carrying, what you're wearing, what you say, how you say it. You can be accused of having a fake $20 bill that you're offering to the store clerk, and they'll call the police on you, and you can still lose your life. It doesn't matter. And so,
or be like Breonna Taylor and be in the bed sleeping.
They have
sleeping.
Right.
It doesn't
What do I
matter.
teach my children?
Yeah.
Exactly. That's the question. That's the question.
Yeah. So
Tamar Rice was just playing with a toy.
What we're really addressing is just the system.
The
Exactly.
system.
It's just-
Right.
it's
But
Right, because
you know.
We need to educate our kids. The system needs to do a better job educating
Mhm.
the workers within
Right.
the system.
But why? And
Right.
bad analogy alert coming in. I think, and I wholeheartedly agree with Quan. Absolutely, it is a system. But what we have to understand is, for the bad analogy, you got to understand we're still plugged into the matrix.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So we know it's the matrix. We know we're in there. We know that it's messed up. We know that it's not set up the way it's supposed to be. But you still plugged in. So there are still consequences that you have for acting outside the set of rules that have been established there. And that's the tough part we have to have with our children, to let them know that just as likely as you are to be a president or be a CEO or to be a vice president of this, you are just as likely to get shot dead in the street if you don't follow, if you don't comply.
Mhm.
or even if you do.
Or if you do.
One thing that I've been struggling with lately, when in the conversation, in the comment that LJ made about there are some good cops. One thing that's really been tormenting me each week, and as I watch the protests and whatnot, is that I have relatives that are police officers, 3 in particular, and so these are people that I love very much, where their lives are at risk every day, even more so now than before. And so you have the situation where it's not just Black Lives Matter, but it's Black people who are also wear this uniform every day. And now they're going through the experience. I'm watching videos where I've seen police officers getting run over. Their lives are being threatened. People are saying, kill the police, F the police.
Right.
Each night that I know that they're working, each night is it's difficult for me because I'm worrying about these people that I love very much. And so some of the commentary, the things that I see online has been just as hard for me to watch as much as the protests, the riots and the looting that's going on across the country. And so that's been difficult, because of course I know there are some good police officers out there in the profession to make a difference. But there are many that don't see that and don't care about that right now.
The bad apples ruin it for everyone.
It's sad.
Mhm.
Yeah.
My brother, he texted me a picture of his car, and it's a wreck. Like they destroyed his car totally.
Mm.
And of course, people want to get mad at Black officers as if they betrayed their race. But let's go back to when I said that we need more Blacks in other industries, and Black politicians and Black film. We need Black officers.
Yeah.
We need that. So we can't contradict ourselves.
Right,
Mhm.
very much so.
Yeah. It's just
I-
one bad apple spoiled
Mhm.
the whole
I-
bunch.
Everything.
I agree wholeheartedly. But that's also why it was so incredibly difficult to look at the mugshots of the Atlanta police officers who pulled over the Morehouse and the Spelman student, and see that of those 6 police officers, there were five of them were brothers, 5 of them that got incensed to the point where when you see the full, I don't know who's seen the full video, but the full video of a protester talking to them in the car, them tackling the protester, the kids pulling out a video camera to kind of watch it and driving away. We're talking about on the streets of America, chasing down a car, slashing their tires, beating out the windows, tasing these people, bringing them out, and all of them are the same skin color. And the fact that it did not cross their minds that could be my son, that could be my daughter, that could have been me, that could have been my wife. The fact that thought didn't stop any of those 5 who were involved in that to slow that down, that's just heartening. It's just heartening.
The systematic. With this incident, with the death of George Floyd, we're getting a lot of allies outside of the Black community joining us, and they're basically coming to us asking, how can they help? What can they say? What do you guys think they have to do, if anything? I have my thoughts. I think one of the things they could do is basically we had the conversation with our kids. They could have the conversation with their kids. They could encourage their kids to be friends with other people who are like them. But anyway, what do you guys think?
Get to know as a race.
You get to know us, yes.
Yeah, and not only them getting to know us, but us getting to know them outside of, what we've been taught about them.
Mm-hmm.
Because the same way we don't want them to look at us as being slaves. We are much more than that. We should also want to take that retrospective look as to really understanding who these people are, so that you can have conversations. Because, and my thing is, I have all kind of friends also, and they have reached out to me, asking me questions, and I'm very, I'm not candid with them. I let them know exactly how I feel about certain things, and we have conversations and communication, and not only that, with us, but even on the political level, help us, as we try to get legislation taken care of and changed. Help us be that voice to help get those things done. It's beautiful on the local level, but this is something that is systematic on through, and so we need to work from the top down and from the bottom up, and let us meet in the middle somewhere and get this taken care of.
Mm.
I would ask them, I think first, my request to us would be, in my opinion, I would want us to not put so much emphasis on allies.
Mm-hmm.
It is great, it is good, it is wonderful, but we have been down this path before. And like I mentioned, again, I feel as though a lot of the outpouring of support that we're having now is because of the global impact that COVID has had on people, from a loss standpoint, from a kind of lost out at sea with the potentially losing jobs, the quarantine, things like that. I think there's a lot of angst that's been built up, that people are equating their pain with their changed existence, and they're equating that with something that we've been dealing with since we brought into this country.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's great to have allies, but I don't want us to be preoccupied with having to turn and talk to our neighbor like we're in church to explain to them what's happening with us, and taking our eyes off of where we need to be going and what we need to be doing. We're in a car, it is driving, it is fully gassed up, we have momentum. We need to keep our eyes on the road and make sure we get to a destination, and not necessarily always pulling over and having side conversations with our passenger. If you are really along for the ride, then pay attention to the scenery that you're seeing as you're driving along. Pay attention and understand that the reality of the situation is, the same way that you're walking down the street and you're getting hit with bullets, and you're getting hit with tear gas, and you're getting beaten, and you're getting beaten down to the ground, that understanding that just because this is happening in the groundswell of a 2020 in which literally everything that could go wrong is going wrong, that is the reality of what Black people have been living with in this country for years. We always could have been subject to that type of violence, that type of mistreatment. And now you're feeling it. Don't lose sight of that empathy, for you to understand what it's like. Because when the word came down that you are a protester, okay, that's the same way that a word has come down that we are a suspect. And when we go from being a citizen, and we go from being a person of this country to being a suspect, and our rights and our civil liberties are then put over to the side on pause while we're roughed up, we're treated, guns are pulled on us, we're pulled over to the side in a dark parking lot, then they are now beginning to understand what that looks like. And I think that's really for them to unpack, because we've been talking to them about that for a while. Reality's been out there. On the other hand of that, I do wholeheartedly believe, again, that from the ally perspective, this is an opportunity for us to really drive home the point of what empathy is. And empathy isn't sympathy, it's different.
I said that last video.
is feeling sorry for someone in their circumstance.
Right.
Empathy is understanding that you can feel their pain and putting yourself in their shoes to feel that pain. And until our allies get to a point where they empathize, and I'm not decrying anything, and I'm not decrying the support that we receive because it is important. But like someone else mentioned earlier, I think it was Quan that mentioned earlier when we were talking, that what happens after, in the Quan analogy, what happens after? Are people still going to feel this way in August? Are they still going to feel this way in September? Are they still going to feel this way in December? Are they still going to feel this way in December 2020? Excuse me, December 2021? Are we still going to feel this way? In 2020, we had a face up for a villain. The villain's COVID, right? It's an invisible assassin. It's out there. It don't care what you look like. It don't care who your mommy is. It don't care. They said, okay, if you're old, you're on the hit list. If you're young, you good. Spring break happened. La da 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 da. Boom. Young people dying. It does not care who you are. It does not care what you look like. It does not care your skin, race, creed, color, anything. It'll come and it'll get you. Okay? I need for them to understand in a way that is what people of color deal with in this country. That there is an invisible killer. It will come to your door. It doesn't care if you're educated. It doesn't care if you're in the north, the south, the east, or the west. It doesn't care if you haven't done anything wrong. It can come to your door, and if it comes to your door and you don't act accordingly, it'll take you out. If you've lived a perfect life up to this point, and I apologize, the young brother who was killed, both of Jean, lived a good life, did everything he was supposed to do, got killed in his own living room. It'll come get you. You've done everything right. Doesn't care if you did stuff wrong. That all this stuff they're trying to dig up on George Floyd and all the stuff that he did, that's fine. People don't live perfect lives. But it don't care if you did right or if you did wrong. It'll come and it'll get you. And the reality is that that's where the empathy comes in. That it's not just some virus that comes literally out of nowhere, sweeps across the globe, and is taking people out like this is what's happening. Like this stuff. It's not that. It's that there's another silent killer that's out there that's taking away families, that's ripping people ripping people from their families, ripping fathers away from their daughters, mothers away from it's killing everybody. But we see it now. It's got a name. We got it on camera. It's real.
I've noticed some whites when they do I don't want to say defend, but when they do see ignorant comments and they address those comments, the heat then goes to them. And I've noticed that that's when all of a sudden they realize, oh my gosh,
it's really this bad.
I didn't know that so many people thought like this. And now they're under the fire and they're seeing it for themselves.
Because they ain't in the kitchen. They ain't in the kitchen. You don't know how hot the fire is. Listen, you don't know how hot the fire is just so you work in a restaurant. Doesn't mean that you know how hot the fire is because you ain't back there cooking the food. You're back there washing the dishes. So the fact that this stuff is happening now, that they're getting a little bit taste of it, yeah, I'm sorry for it, but this is what we've been literally trying to tell people for so long. And
it's still nothing compared to what we experienced. That's just a little taste of it. That's nothing compared.
It's not. And the reality of it, again, like Juan mentioned, that this thing is being, a lot of what we're seeing are the attempts to hijack this movement in a number of different ways. You have opportunists that are looting and riot. You have opportunists that are looting because they want products. You have opportunists that are trying to take this and turn this into an anarchy by shutting up buildings, starting stuff. You got boogaloo fools out there trying to take advantage of this stuff. You got Antifa out there trying to take some of these things. You got other unknown elements that are out there trying to hijack this entire thing. You got this whole riot thing. You've got influencers who are pulling up in the middle of riots, trying to take pictures with rioters in the background or protesters in the background, or show themselves nailing up boards on a broken building, or fake like they're sweeping up glass or something, taking pictures, and then getting in their car and they're leaving. This is the reality of where we are with misinformation. It's rampant. It's rampant. And so that's kind of why I feel like we have to be so careful about the allies. I've heard it said before that we are forgiving people. We're always willing to take an apology, always willing to give somebody the benefit of the doubt, always willing to turn the other cheek, right? But if we become so preoccupied with the welfare and the care of these allies who say that they're feeling our pain, and we spend all our time trying to explain to them what's happening and help them join the movement, are we making are we making horizontal progress, or are we making vertical progress to where it is we need to go? And I think at this stage, there's listen, if you want a history lesson, you can go on YouTube, you can go on Google, you can go on you can pay attention in your class, you can listen to a bunch of stuff that'll tell you what's been happening in this country.
They're making movies about all of it. Amazon have it for free for rent right now. Like when Quan called me and said, like, Just Mercy, we watched that last night, and it was so hard for me to sit there and watch that movie. I don't know if it was because of what is going on right now, but I was like, I got to get up. I can't watch this. I was getting mad, and it's there. And even when it goes back to the when they see us, when it came to those boys, it's like.
Yeah.
It's this out there.
Yeah. But we have to get mad. We have to get mad to a point where our anger is enough to turn these kids that are out there looting and building these streets. And there are videos out there. There are people in these streets who have band together to stop people from rioting, stop people from touching these buildings, turning these young kids away. They got to catch the fire too. And we talked about that bridge. Like, we cannot allow this bridge to burn down during this time frame, to leave those young kids on that island to riot and burn it down to the ground. We have to remain to be that bridge to help them understand this is why you're over there. And you're not over there to burn it down to the ground. Okay, great. It's been a couple weeks. Y'all done burned, y'all done looted, y'all done stole some Maseratis, y'all done stole some Land Rovers, you got a flat screen TV. That's great. This thing is still here. Now it's the next step. Are you going to go and participate in the census? Are you registered to vote? Are you going to come out here to this next thing? Are you strategizing? Are you organizing? Are you mobilizing? Like, all those different things that come in. And I think Tarris made a good point too. Like, what comes after all this stuff? Because there's only so many neighborhoods that we can burn. There's only so many stores that we can loot, only so many targets that can be burned down to the ground. At some point, this thing is going to fizzle out. And it's getting ready to fizzle out now because they've called in the military, right? So, this thing is, whether we like it or not, this thing is going to come to a head. But there's got to be some sort of sustenance afterwards. And to draw out, like somebody else made a great point earlier today, to draw out the reality of it. I think the last couple of days, there was the exchange between Kamala Harris, Cory Booker, and Rand Paul, where there is conversation
on lynching, right?
Or about the anti-lynching bill.
Something that was a big issue 100 years ago, and we're just now addressing it.
But the fact that it's even still there to debate lynching.
Yeah.
Lynching, to have an ideological debate on lynching, and I believe the crux of it was Rand Paul wanted to eliminate some of the verbiage so that it specifically talked about lynching and not talking about some of the other ancillary items that might be construed as lynching, such as abuse or a beating or some other stuff. Like, it just make it, if it's an anti-lynching bill, it needs to be about anti-lynching. What? And we're having this conversation. Another tidbit that was missed, and why we have to keep our minds focused on, is the conversation between Charlemagne, ain't calling him the guy, Charlemagne, and Joe Biden, where when Joe Biden told everybody what they was and what they were and what they weren't going to be, he then followed up that comment by, like he always does, berating people to check his record, check my record, right? But there is specifically a comment where he talked about how he extended the voting rights. Why? And not saying why because it was a good thing, but we still doing that? People don't understand that the right for us to vote has to be renewed.
Mm.
And it lapsed actually, right? 20.
Yeah, and true enough, he helped to extend it. But again, Asian Americans ain't going through that.
That was the 50th anniversary. That was the 50th anniversary, right? It lapsed on the 50th anniversary.
Yes. Yes. The fact that it has to be renewed is mind-boggling because there's no other ethnicity or characterization of people in this country that have to be given. Annually, we have to go back and say, all right, y'all can vote. Y'all can keep voting. That in itself is mind-boggling, but those are the realities that's there. People are asking, we talk about these allies, they're talking about why we feel the need to do this, or what's your pain, or what's this, or what's that. The pain is, y'all are out here looking at the deaths of these people that have happened unjustly, because that's what happened in all these cases, unjustly.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But the reality is that is just a shell of what's happening. Because while there are several black bodies that are there, right, there are also bills that keep us from voting. And what's the one thing that they always tell us to do to make things better? Why don't you vote?
Yeah.
Why don't you vote? You're not voting. But you got a bill literally on there that can't expire. And if the vote goes the right way, we could be left without the ability to vote. That is why this thing is so, that is why it's so important that we keep our eyes on the road and not on our allies and not on social media, but we have to have 360 degrees defensive driving type of awareness for what it means to navigate in this country as we are, because you quite literally don't know. When we get on the road, we always talk about praying for protection, for danger seen and unseen. And the reality of the fact is that the same way you may not even recognize that had you not stopped at the gas station 5 minutes down the road, that you would then be in the accident that's 5 miles ahead of you. The fact is that is what it's like living as a person of color in this country, is you don't even know half the dangers that are out there gunning for you.
True.
You have no idea.
It's true.
I'm done.
My final comment is, all we can do is continue to pray, continue to educate our kids, and don't let this go undone. Once COVID is over, everybody's back working. Let's not just sweep this under the rug. Like it's not over. If we started, let's just finish it.
Let's make sure we have conversations. Not only just have conversations, let's put to action with conversation. And let's not let this be another situation where it has been swept under the rug. Have conversations with your children, nephews, mentees, because as was stated earlier, if we're going to be those trailblazers and be that bridge, we have to mentor people outside of just our children or our nephews, or reach out to those, and have those conversations, and because we will have to guide them, just like someone had to help guide us. So yeah, those are my final comments. My final comments.
Well, thank you guys. You're definitely part of the generational talk panel, so we'll probably bring you back again for, hopefully not this subject again.
Right.
Hopefully for another subject, something cool. Maybe we'll talk about music and movies next time.
Please.
Hey.
Please.
Everybody.